Schiefelbein. I am the founder of the Dynamic Communicator and CXO, Chief Experience Officer at Render, a synthetic media tech startup. And the best advice that I've ever gotten is don't talk about it, be about it.
Ooh, that's interesting advice. Don't talk about it, be about it. When did you get that in your career, and what does that mean?
So I actually got it from an ex. So, something useful does come out of every relationship. And to me, it means like, of course, as entrepreneurs, as leaders, as people, we have to self-promote. We have to talk about it, but don't you dare go talk about it until you've already been about it, until you have some track record to prove it. Don't go out there saying like you have.
Interesting. So that's a little different than the old fake it till you make it, huh?
It is. It is. And I don't think they're necessarily antithetical. I think the idea of fake it till you make it is get the confidence in yourself to go figure out the answers. At least that's how I choose to interpret it and manifest that confidence, because we don't all just pop out as the most confident humans in the world. Well, actually, that's a lie. We do as kids, and then life beats us down, and then we lose that confidence. So to me, don't talk about it, be about it is, yeah, you have people who can analyze things to death, who talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, but don't have any action. So be about action, and then your words can follow it.
I like that. I can dig that. So I've known you for a long time. Communications is always what I think about with you. And now today we're going to talk about the future, but from what I've read from you, like the future's kind of here with this AI stuff, right?
It's here and it's going to be continually developing, but meaning that it's here doesn't mean that people know how to use it well yet.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. So let's talk about some of the different types of AI or things that
Mhm.
are out there now. The most current one for a lot of people is Chat GPT, which
GPT.
is super interesting, right? I mean, it's interesting. I actually introduced my wife to it last night, where she's like, "Hey, how'd you do that?" I'm like, "Well, that's Chat GPT." She goes, "What's that? I've not heard of that." I'm like, "Really?" But then I realized, like, I read way too much and consume way too much. So for those who may not be familiar with it, Jill, how would you describe Chat GPT?
So ChatGPT is the, I don't know if brainchild is the right word, but it's a generation from OpenAI, where there's a lot of smart people that have funded it. A lot of big companies are giving it funding, and it creates different AI-based applications. And ChatGPT, think of it as a search engine that you can also command and get very specific results. Now, I'm not saying it replaces a search engine. In fact, it takes significantly more amounts of energy. So environmentally wise, ChatGPT uses way more energy than a Google search, for example. But what you can do is you can say, please give me the top 5 tips for nonverbal communication in the United States. And it gives you those top 5 tips. Now, you need to choose if the veracity of that information is good enough or not. That's really up to you, but you really need to be able to decide that for yourself. I think it gives us a good starting point and shortcuts the writing process.
Cool. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that is the benefit, is it gives us a start, right? I like to put, give me 14 different insights here, and I'll pick 7 or 8 that might, resonate with me or with folks that I'm
Mhm.
talking to as I'm talking about sales and leadership and some of the tools out there. But I don't think everything that it spits out is perfect. In fact,
Mhm.
what's nice, I like, is that you can regenerate the response, or you can say, give me 10 more. The challenge is it doesn't ever tell you when you've kind of reached the end of the rope as far as what's in the bucket, because it, unless you connected to the internet with some other tools,
Mhm.
it's just what's inside of that Chat GPT bucket. So it repeats itself, or it rephrases itself, and instead of getting 25 unique, you get like 17 or 18 unique, and then you get 5 or 6 that are repeats.
Yeah. What I'm finding interesting is people are saying, well, it's not going to replace humans. This writing isn't that great. But that's not the point of it. It's the same thing as when you do a Google search to search for an answer. You don't just take that one answer and run with it, and it's the end all be all of answers. There's still work to be done with it. And so whether you're using ChatGPT to write things in JavaScript, PHP, you can have it program things in HTML for you, like, yay, back 1990s and early 2000s, you can have it do all types of things. But what I'm finding is we're at the stage now where the vast majority of people are spaghetti throwers. And to me, that means they're playing this and it's like, ooh, look at all these fun noodles. Let's get it on the wall and let's see if anything sticks. And you know what typically happens? Unless you have some friction in your wall already that a noodle get cuts up on, it all slides down. And people are like, oh, this is just a fad. It's not a fad. We've been using the base idea of this technology for decades and decades and decades. When we learn how to communicate it with it, well, they're now calling it prompt engineering. So if you're able to prompt it, you're a prompt engineer. And I'm like, oh, so that's what I was in 2012 when I did my YouTube stuff and learned to prompt engineer the descriptions and keywords on YouTube. Like, whatever, people will come up with phrases for anything, but the idea is the better you get at interacting with any machine learning or artificial intelligence technology that is continually generative, continually learning, the better results you're going to get and the more streamlined you can make your processes.
Sure. So the first time we use it, it's pretty lame and there's no friction and there's no interest. And it's like, okay, well, give me 10 things. And now what do I do with this? And as we go, to your point, right, we become better at asking questions, better at finding that out. And one of the things I enjoy is that a lot of people are sharing out their prompts, so I can learn from them and I can see what they're doing. So do you have a favorite prompt that you've been using that you're willing to share, Joe?
Yeah, actually, on render side, we are putting our own render GPT together, which can be trained on different models. And what we're using it for is to generate scripts for synthetic media videos. And so we are creating templates at this point in time where it's in X number of words, because certain amount of words equals certain length in terms of a video output, right? In X number of words in this type of tone. So you can add a persuasive tone, an informative tone, a funny tone, a serious tone. So word count, tone, give goals, and then give a couple of pieces of information. And if you have, let's say, a signature line that you always like to end with, you can even put in the prompt and end it with this sentence or and open with this sentence. And it will generate something based on a number of specific parameters. So think of it almost as like a library of Mad Libs style prompt engineered scripts, since that's now my term, that you can use.
Awesome. So Jill Schiefelbein, Mad Libber and prompt engineer. I got
Right.
it. Yeah, that's fantastic. So cool. I love to hear that Render's doing that. And before we jump in over to what Render's doing, let's talk a little bit more about maybe conversational intelligence as
Yeah.
we use for AI, because I think that's an important thing, right? You are all about communication. So let's talk about the conversation side of that and conversational intelligence. What are you seeing? What are you doing with that?
I mean, a lot of different applications. You can use Chat GPT, you can use Jasper AI, you can use Quillbot anywhere. There, I mean, there's tons of them out there, right? And there's also a lot of chat bot applications, which most of us have some type of experience interacting with, like a virtual assistant is sometimes what the companies are calling it, whatever it may be. What we know is this. We know lots of studies that if you are going to be operating with an artificially intelligence form of communication, if you're going to have a conversation with an AI agent, be that a chatbot, be it on another site, whatever it may be, we know that if you are told that this is the technology up front, the trust is better, the questions get better, your
Hmm.
frustration is lowered, the friction is lowered, and you know to ask for a human representative sooner, or that, okay, a human representative isn't available right now, and you can ask like the chatbot to schedule an appointment or what hours of operation are real humans there. So when we know up front what we're dealing with, we know how better to interact. It's the same thing. You would not explain the process of purchasing a home to a 5-year-old the same way you would to a 50-year-old, right? It's a fundamentally different audience. Your artificial intelligence, the system, think of it as an audience. It's listening to your commands and it's interpreting it in its own language and then spitting it back out. And the more you communicate, the more you collaborate, the more, sympathetic that you guys will be towards each other, and you'll get the symbiotic relationship going better. But that takes time, just as it does when you go to a new physician for the first time, or you take a class and it's the first day with a new teacher, whatever it may be. Relationships take time. AI is no different.
That's interesting. So we have to disclose that at the front. And that was one of my early concerns about this is you wouldn't know whether or not it was a human or an AI or what. I mean, Google started placing appointments places by making phone calls. through a series of prompts and freak people out.
Mhm.
And now, to your point, right, as long as we understand that it's a different language, some will adapt, some will be okay with that, some will practice with that, and some will not. So where do we kind of put that escape word, right? You talked about the ability to get to a human being. Where do we put that?
Representative, representative. I mean, we've
Right?
all we've all yelled it, typed it, whatever. But I like how you say it, like an escape hatch from the conversation. And this is the thing. I believe that the best systems, and this I also believe is a personal choice. I think it's a user choice. I think it's an organization choice. I think depending on what the outcome that you want from any type of integration of technology, you have to make these choices for yourself. But I can tell you what studies show based on scientific research, statistics, etc. So for me, this is an automated system. You'll be interacting with this. If at any point in time you want, to talk to a human agent, I like it when they put the wait time is currently. So then it gives you added incentive. Like, okay, so it's 15 minutes to talk to a human. I wonder if there's a couple questions I can ask to see if this can do anything. And then saving time is enough of an incentive for people to try something in the first place. So it's how you set expectations. This is in any communication, in any business setting, in any conversation with a significant other. It's how the expectations are set, those parameters that allow us agency and choice, and then how we choose to continually interact.
Makes sense. Makes sense. I like that. I think giving us the choice between 15 minutes of waiting and doing nothing or 50 minutes and trying something that maybe makes us a little uncomfortable, it's probably okay. I think that's a fair trade-off for folks. Sometimes my concern is, they say it's 50 minutes and then like 3 minutes in, I get a person. It's like, it almost makes me wonder, like, do you know? Did a conversation end early? Like, it just puts some doubt in the back of my head. Like, how truthful is this organization if they're leading me with 15 and then come back with 3?
And I think it all depends on how they have their algorithms set up. Maybe some people were on break and they came back from break early, came back from lunch early. There's a whole lot of things, but I know for a fact, if you only wait 3 minutes instead of 15, you're going to be okay. But if you wait 20 instead of 15, you're not going to be as okay. So as an organization, like if I was building this system for me, I would say, your wait will be no longer than, phrase it
Oh, there we
that
go.
way. Just so that, and then it would be a bloated number because I would want to cover myself, right? Because there's a lot of things that you can't guarantee. So, under promise and over deliver type mentality.
Interesting, interesting. Well, let's move into video here because I think this is where your expertise is. This is where your work with render comes up. One of the things that I read actually this morning was that was some post that said AI is generating hyper real but deepfake porn of popular TikTok, Instagram models. Is that a concern? Is that something we have to be aware of, or is that just is that just hype?
This has been happening for almost 10 years. This is not new. This is not new at all. Deep fakes. The first original versions were really, really poor, and you could tell they were fake. But as in hyper realistic ones, for at least 5, maybe 6 years ago now, 2017, 18, the first real, like, holy cow, people cannot distinguish them, deep fakes started to come out. And there's a big difference technologically between synthetic media and deep fakes that I can get into in a minute. But women have been unfairly targeted from celebrities, from journalists who are covering controversial things in different areas around the world, trying to be threatened and getting them exercised. People have been killed because of deepfake videos that use their likeness to create something that they never said or that they never did. This happened, the murder of 3 people in India who were going to visit their nephew, 3 men, and, deep fake videos of them made them look like they were part of this riot, this movement, and they were not. And they got beaten to death on the way to see one of the guys' nephews. Right. These cases have happened. There's a book called Deep Fakes by Nina Schreck, and it really lays out, since, really strong quality deep fakes around 2017, 18, how they've proliferated in different forms of media, how they've harmed people. And she posits deep fake as the nefarious use of it. And so when people say deep fake, some people know like deep fake Tom Cruise on TikTok, right? Same type of technology is being used to develop that, but they're typically used for entertainment purpose or nefarious uses. Deep fakes, unless you have an insanely high budget, like Hollywood style movies, are not going to be used for something that is a product or a profit or informational videos.
Okay. Okay, cool. So I saw another one, I guess less nefarious, but certainly
Mhm.
more Hollywood style, in that they're going to take Tom Cruise and Robin Wright, who were in Forrest Gump, years ago, and now they're going to, de-age them and turn that into that. I've seen that with,
Mhm.
Harrison Ford, the new Raiders of the Lost
Yep.
Ark movie. So that's interesting. So tell us, yeah, that you made a distinction there
Mhm.
between deep fake and synthetic media. So talk
Mhm.
to us, what's the difference?
So synthetic media is a broad category of media that basically means media that is artificially generated. When you have a deep fake, you actually take real footage of something. So in the pornography example, they take real porn and then they are faking imposing, and AI can come into the fake imposed part as it's trying to meld it something. So you're taking a real intentionally created stimulus and then making it fake on top of it. That's why it's called a deep fake, because it was at one point a real video. Right. So that is the same thing as, superimposing or making Tom Hanks look younger. Right. There is real actual footage that can be used. And then you can use technology to now like move the lips differently or change the words differently. So big distinction there. Synthetic media actually takes something that is artificially generated, but based on something real. So when you create, at my company where I'm a partner, Render, we create hyper realistic avatars. It's basically digital likeness. So you have people like Bruce Willis, Morgan Freeman have signed different digital likeness things over for either the voice or their appearance, that type of thing. You have name, image, and likeness that's being used now with NCAA and college athletes, where you want someone to make an appearance, it's $50,000. You want their digital likeness on the ad, well, you pay $10,000, right? So it's a different model. So this idea of a hyper realistic avatar, right? A digital likeness means that it is something that is fundamentally non-existent, right? No video existed before, and you create it by taking video footage and creating an avatar, a video presence. And then on the other side, there's the auditory, the audio footage, and creating a vocal presence. And so when you create synthetic media, you're using those instances of presence and blending them together to give you an output. And so that output
Wow. So
didn't exist before, right? So in a deep fake, the base video existed before. With this, there was no base video. There was a video trained avatar and a base video trained vocal avatar, and then they are combined in a synthetic way.
that's so interesting. So how does that work, when it's maybe a word or something that wasn't said? Does it just make assumptions or break it apart in terms of, is it almost like hooked on phonics, or what's it do?
So in terms of like the audio generation side, our users will submit a script, or they can even upload their own audio if they only want the synthetic video presence. They don't want the synthetic audio. But a lot of people, you type in a script, so you'll never say the words. Can I share screen on this? Is that even a
Hmm.
possibility? Oh, okay. Then I'll get something queued up while you're transitioning the next question, then, so I can show you an example of it. But basically, you type something into a script, and then the technology generates how the video side of you, mouth and body and stuff, moves with that, and then how the audio side of you would, pronounce and do all those things. And sometimes the pronunciation is off, right? Sometimes it is. And when that's the case, and let's say you have a lot of words that are very maybe culturally specific or some acronyms or something, we can do additional voice training to get kind of that dictionary set in there.
That's super interesting. Very cool. So yeah, so lots of stuff there. We talked about Chat GPT, that prompt engineering, deep fake and synthetic media, the differences there, and those hyper realistic avatars you guys created with Render Media. Super interesting. So you said you'd have an example here. I'd love to see this. I think on the new button, you can bring that up and you can share the screen there for us so we can see what
Okay,
you're going to talk
so
about here.
let's see. All right, let me try this one more time here, because this will be a great example of how you can do this. And hopefully the sound will come through. Oh, and it's unable to share the screen for whatever reason right now. So I can
Oh,
post a
well.
link to it, or
Yeah, cool. We'll put it in the show notes. No,
or
that's great. So
something
lots
later.
of cool. Yeah. So that's interesting. So with that, what else is involved in these kind of, synthetic media type things? I mean, how does one even get started thinking that, hey, this might be something that I want to do? Like, who's a candidate for this, Jill?
It's really the best uses of this for me, at least from my perspective. It's not to replace what you're already doing for video in your business, right? Not to replace it. But to me, this is a fundamentally different channel of communication. And because of that, it's used in specific purposes. Like we know in the digital communication space that video is queen or king, however you want to put it, right? We know this. We know that it converts more, it attracts attention more, et cetera. And of course, not all video is created equal. We also know that. But in general, we know this. And we also know, so let's take sales, for example, right? Because you and I both
Yep.
know that world very well. We know that establishing relational presence in sales is important. Period. End of story, right? The more you trust someone, the more you like someone, the more business you do if the product is even a relative match. So, with that, most salespeople, you'll do your sales calls, but the in between times, those touch points, it's an email or maybe a mass email or something. Well, now you can have more personalized, customized videos for, let's say, your top 20% of your clients, whatever it may be, without ever having to go on video and do it. You can even create it. A use case that I love is you go to a trade show or an event, you've set up a booth, or you're at a networking event, profiling people, etc. You walk away, and most savvy salespeople write like 1, 2, or 3, A, B, or C, or star, circle, heart, whatever your your system is, to be like, these are really hot leads, not so hot leads, whatever it may be. But what typically happens is we send one mass email out to all of these cards that we collect. Number one, it's text-based only, maybe with some links. That's not breaking the status quo. But now, let's say you identified 10 really hot targets. What you do is you create a mail merge type technology. You use your CRM, whatever you have. And, it was really great meeting you at name of event. I really enjoyed our conversation on fill in the blank here, whatever that is. It was really interesting how you talked about fill in an interesting fact and, make this 30-second personalized video script. I would really like to talk to you more about, fill in the blank. Boom, populates it all. You submit them. And it took you maybe, 5-10 minutes to get everything submitted, and then you're going to have 10 different videos within a business day. Like, that's personalized communication. That is adding a personalized touch where you didn't have it before. And as studies also show, personalization, customization, and agency of choice are 3 things that drive loyalty, brand retention, repeated buying behavior, customer satisfaction. Those things are all in the scientific research. And so when we look at those, the one that gets people hung up is like agency of choice means a choice in how you're communicating with someone and how you're consuming their content. So if you put an email out that's all text, that communicates something. If you put an email out that has text and video, even if people don't click on the video, it communicates, right? The mere presence of having that video included communicates something, that there was more effort that went into that video, right? It's subliminal messaging type thing. But over time, those things do statistically make a difference. And now if I have text content and I also have something very similar in video content, and as a customer, I choose which way to consume your content, like actively make a tactile choice there. Now I have psychologically lowered my barrier to a bigger yes, just a little bit, by saying that small yes there. But what we can't do is spend all day making videos. Now synthetic media can help in that arena.
Cool. That's pretty cool. Well, I think we can share that video. I think
I think I got it
I need
uploaded, right?
Cool. Yeah. So are you ready? You want to share it?
Let's do it.
All right, let's try it.
Today is the day that you get to meet a hyper-realistic avatar. I am Jill's avatar, also known as her digital likeness. I was created by combining both video and vocal clones of the original Jill. Jill believes that avatars like me can be very instrumental in business contexts. But before others adopt the technology, we need to demonstrate that these videos can be both engaging and trusted. The real Jill will tell you more.
Wow. That's pretty good. So that's a synthetic Jill, huh?
Yeah, that's synthetic Jill. That's my hyper realistic avatar. And that is two versions of the avatar, an earlier version and a later, more recent version. And you can see even it gets a little more realistic even with that second video. And that's my dissertation work. I will be, hopefully, if all goes well, Dr. Jill in December. And it will be the first published research, like scientifically validated, all of these things in an academic setting on this type of avatar, because it did not exist, right? There's stock avatars that exist, but these custom avatars are even a higher quality, which just is mind-blowing. And we actually partner with Synthesia, who is the leading producer of stock avatars, using some of their engine processing to produce video aspect of our total package there. So it's nuts. We're going to see engagement levels, trust levels. We're going to see testing learning efficacy, testing relational regressions, like a whole bunch of things. I will be able to tell you, because we will be collecting biometric measures, watching people's face for 20 latent facial expressions, positive, negative, neutral for what portions of time in a video with eye movement analysis. I can tell you on the video where people look away when it's a real human versus an avatar. So then, you know, as a video designer, that's when you pop B-roll on. That's when you put text on the screen and keep the engagement going longer. So much like real concrete data is coming soon. And I'm geeked out about it if you can't tell.
Wow, that's awesome. So are you using this in dating yet? Is that this there yet, or are we waiting for that?
No, but if anyone who's interested can't even geek out with me on this, they never have a chance.
True enough. True enough. That's funny. So cool. So what's next for you, almost Dr. Jill? What else is coming here with Render and with you?
No, well, it's really exciting. So, Chief Experience Officer is my role at Render. I'm a partner in this company. And one of the things that we have now started doing, we had our, 100 charter members, beta like every tech startup does, and got great feedback. Not all of it positive. And that's good, right? Because you can't have a perfect product and you can't improve until you really understand different pain points. And we're constantly making evolutions, improving processes, et cetera. And to get to see those changes on the tech side for me geeks me out. But what I love seeing even more about it is when I speak about this type of topic at an event, and it's not just about the avatars, it's how can we now use all of these AI tools together to streamline different type of content creation, right? And that I'll walk you through a process, that I've designed in just a little bit if you'd like, but that type of stuff, my job is solely strategy and use cases, and it's communication. Communication strategy has been my passion for, 2 decades since I've been studying business communication and practicing it. So it just fits right in. And at that communication intersection with technology and education is where I love to be. So I cannot wait to see how more people use these. I can't wait to get more tests being done. One of the things that we are coordinating right now is trying to find the right fit in a healthcare system where we can actually have doctor avatars. So then instead of getting paper follow-up orders or pings on a message system, now you have the likeness of your actual physician delivering the follow-up information. And my belief, based on data of similar things, is that likeness display will actually increase the amount of efficacy and follow-up care. And if that's the case, now we're, being healthier, you're saving money. I mean, there's just so many cool ways to use the technology. And that's what geeks me out the most, is playing with all of them.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, share more. Share more. That's exciting.
So this process. So I did a speech last week, actually, for a whole room of like the top luxury, like travel brands and advisors who are running massive agencies. And AI is something that we've all heard, but again, spaghetti against the wall. We may have played, but not really have a full strategy utilized. So let's just use a case as an example. Let's say you wanted to create an informational video series that's going to benefit a product you sell. So Phil, give me a product.
Oh, give you a product.
Give me a product.
Let's say a farm tractor, a big tractor that goes
farm
out.
Tractor.
Yeah.
A farm tractor, especially now because John Deere now gave people the rights to be able to repair their own tractors and get their own parts. Like finally, right? So case in point. So let's say you're a manufacturer of these parts for, John Deere, and now that people are itching to do this on their own. So you want to create an educational video series that can go out on these things. So maybe you want to do this for people who are not quite like convinced, but they know they need to look into it to save money. So you use ChatGPT or Jasper or any word, or whatever AI system that you like and that you use, and you typed in a prompt such as, please give me, I even say please to my AI. I know that is really, really weird. There's probably some neurological issue with me, but I'm like, please give me. But it's, write 10 different tips that someone who has never worked on a tractor before can benefit from when thinking about purchasing parts or doing their own work, right? You could phrase it like that. Again, I'm not a tractor expert, so bear with me on that language there, but you get the point. Now the AI generates 10 different ideas. Now what you do, step number 2, you take whatever those ideas work. So let's say 5 of them work, and you're like, okay, 5 is great. That's like, 5 weeks of content dripped out. That's a strong, strong start. So I take 5 of those. Then I copy and paste one of them, put it back in there and say, write me 200 words in a persuasive tone or an informative tone, whatever it is, about the use of feeling, like maybe one of the tips was, feeling of pride and accomplishment. Let's just go with that, right? So write me 200 words on this. You do that for each of your 5 tips. Within literally about 30 seconds, you have now generated all of your content. Now, this is where you now come in as a human, whereas before you've had to do all of that. That would have been hours of writing all of that stuff, at least. Now you've spent minutes. You go, you look at those scripts, and then you augment them based on your brand, right? You edit maybe 30% of the content that's there and make it good for your brand, make it sound the way you want. Use your, your vision, mission, values, your vocabulary, whatever it is, it's going to benefit you, your keywords, that type of stuff, right? So now you've spent maybe now an hour max, maybe 2 hours if you're really just not an editor, right? Like if you're doing this, you probably would be an editor. So let's just say an hour, right? You've now spent an hour and change, and you have 5 different video scripts that you spend less than a minute each getting them into your hyper-realistic avatar of your CEO or of, someone that's a mechanic dressed in coveralls, whatever you picked, right? You put it in that app. So now you have 1 business day wait max, because there's still human intervention there. What AI can do on its own is not something most people want to use right now. I can promise you that, but it's getting closer. So we still have some manual QA. So within 1 business day, you get that. And while you're waiting for that, what you then do is use the same tool. And for this, I like Jasper AI best because they have specific templates for YouTube, which is magic. So then you take that script, you take the tip, you import it into Jasper and say, write a X number of word YouTube description ranking for the following keywords. Boom, within minutes, you have all of your video descriptions, some minor editing, and you're done. You can do the same thing for AI generated titles using certain keywords and descriptors. Again, within minutes, boom, you're done. So in total, you have probably spent under 2 hours creating 5 informational videos for your company. That is unheard of. Right? Unheard of. And so it's just understanding what tools to put in play, how to use it to reduce your upfront time in working, and then how to get it to give you a base template that then you edit from and move forward with quickly.
Wow, that's fantastic. And I would bet that the first people that use this are the top salespeople who are willing to try something new and try something different and probably invest in themselves, right? They're probably selling high ticket, to that point. Tractors are hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
That would be that would be something that you might want to invest in. So that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. So Jill, how the heck do we get started along this journey, right? Of thinking more about synthetic media and understanding more about digital likenesses and being more than just ourselves.
The number one thing that I always tell people, again, and I've said it before, this isn't to replace what you're already doing good video on. This is to augment or provide a different channel of communication in other instances. Now, some people choose to replace it. Some people don't. Like I have a client, and greatest use case, she was doing screen share walkthroughs of different like tech things, like training type things in her company, travel advisor, agency owner, and she has 140 advisors underneath her. So whenever they have a new system, they need to change it. So what she would do before is just do a basic screen record, click around and have the audio. Well, her presence as their leader does matter. So what she now does is has that audio sends it to the avatar video, makes the avatar tiny in the corner so her presence is still reinforced, and then still has a screen share. So she wouldn't have used it before, but now what's also great is she has the scripts for all of these things. Something changes, she just has to edit the 2 sentences or whatever in the script, boom, plug it in again, and the look and feel is still consistent. So for HR, for training, for all that type of stuff, it's a brilliant, brilliant use. So shout out to you, Amanda, for doing that. But with that, I strongly suggest to people, and this is what I do with my clients all the time, like you have to analyze your CX, your customer experience process, if we're talking about a sales example. And if not, your customer experience could be your employee experience too, right? Could be internal or external customers. You have to look at the process, look at what your existing communicative touch points are, and mark areas where there's friction, where there's frustration, where you tend to get a lot of questions. These are like the prime areas to target. I call them uncertainty gaps when I'm doing this analysis. Like, where do you have gaps in your process that create uncertainty or leave room for uncertainty? Because when our brains are dealing with uncertainty, we are focused on solving that before moving forward and progressing. So where you have these, uncertainty gaps or communication gaps, bam, bam, bam. These are immediate strategic implementation places for a combination of, AI, synthetic media, et cetera.
Wow. Super, super cool. So you're the CXO at rendermedia.ai. That's pretty cool. Is there anywhere else you'd like people to go to get to connect with you even more?
No, I mean, I'm at Dynamic Jill everywhere on social, and it is just getting released today, and the new website is actually going to be live next week. But we have a brand new, our first publication as a company, 10 different ways to use a synthetic media avatar, to use your digital likeness in business context. So if anyone wants a copy of that book, you can please just reach out to me on social media, comment in here, DM me, whatever it is, and I will absolutely make sure you get a copy of that. So super excited about that. And the new site with the links and everything will be up next week, but we just finalized it today.
Woohoo! Congratulations.
Thanks.
Congratulations. And great stuff today, Jill. Learning the difference between deepfake and synthetic media alone was worth everything here. Yeah. Learning a little more about ChatGPT and how to think about our digital likeness in ways that I haven't thought of, certainly helpful. And I know people got a bunch from that. So friends, if you're looking to learn more about stuff like this, get connected with Jill Schiefelbein. She's Dynamic Jill everywhere. Rendermedia.ai is the organization she's part of now. Really simple to remember, right? And their tagline, right? Create your digital likeness to be more than just yourself, which is super fun. And Jill, as always, it's great to spend time with you. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much, Phil. And thanks everyone for tuning in.